have been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act.
And for you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Well, that went well.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Leftist Losers Show, where we point out all of the losers of the left. And today I got a clip of the Young Turks for you guys where Ana Kasparian's just dogpiling on top of Trump as usual. Trump recently did an interview session with a few hosts at a convention for black journalists, I believe in Chicago. And both presidential candidates were originally slated to be there, but since Joe Biden dropped out of the race, he obviously did not show up. Kamala Harris was invited, but also did not show up. Instead, she was going to, I guess, call in via Zoom or something, but I'm not sure if that actually happened. I didn't watch the full event. However, Trump's interview portion of the event is going viral due to the fact that he basically snapped at the interviewer due to her being extremely hostile. Apparently, they had issues with their equipment and didn't start the questioning or the interview for about 30 minutes, which for someone like Donald Trump or even Kamala Harris, for that instance, either way, those people are extremely busy. They're trying to run campaigns. They've got a lot of other appointments they've got to make, along with the fact that Secret Service has to clear every area they go to, especially after the assassination attempt. And so you can understand why Donald Trump would be a little frustrated for them to start the interview 30 minutes late due to not being prepared, on top of the fact that his political rival isn't even going to show up. And then on top of all of that, they are extremely hostile in their questioning towards him. And his response, I think, was pretty solid. But we're going to go ahead and jump right into this clip. Ana Kasparian, of course, jumping on the bandwagon of the left and just, trying to spin this in a way that makes Donald Trump look bad. But I think he did just fine. So we're going to jump in and we can see what she thinks right now.
You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you.
Real quick, just for some context, the white supremacist she's referring to at his dinner was brought there by Kanye West. Kanye West brought Nick Fuentes, who she's referring to, without even letting Donald Trump know that he was going to bring him to the dinner. So that's not a fair question. Of course, it's one of those things where they leave out all the important context and they just try to, pin ridiculous titles onto Trump because they need to hurt his image in some way.
Why should black voters trust you?
Oof. Obviously a tough question. Donald Trump spoke before the National Association of Black Journalists and things got fiery. Not so great for Donald Trump. I think that he handled this event poorly, to say the least. And it appears that some in conservative media might even concede to that. Now, with that in mind, let's take a look at how he answered that question.
Well, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And
you notice how the crowd's cheering and stuff? I mean, maybe they like the drama, but like everywhere Trump goes, he gets a pretty solid response. And I think people are starting to realize there is some authenticity with him. Of course, he puts a show on. I mean, he's an entertainer, but like, again, Ana Kasparian and a lot of the leftist media are leaving a lot of context out of this whole situation. He showed up to the event on time. They showed up and weren't ready for about 30 minutes, had him waiting, then informed him that he wasn't going to be there doing, which essentially this was supposed to be like a little almost like pseudo debate between him and Biden originally. It wasn't really going to be structured like a debate, but them both being there was like almost like a competing town hall, if you will. But since none of them showed up and they were late to start the questioning, and then they had basically just come right out of the gate attacking him, you can understand why he'd be frustrated, And then the crowd's cheering him on like they like his response.
And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country. I have been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the the Voting Rights Act.
For you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Well, that went well. Curious what you thought about his response to, I will admit, it was a challenging question. Sure, you could even say maybe a little bit hostile, but I think it was an important question to ask him, especially if he's attempting to appeal to Black voters. But what do you think, John?
It wasn't hostile. She just did a bullet point list of other insane things that he's done. And he decided the next time this happens, I want to make sure there's new material on the list. So let me rapid fire give you.
Yeah, see, that's, again, he's leaving out context and just glossing over it, trying to make it seem like she did nothing wrong. But she literally criticized him, saying, you called Black journalists animals, trying to insinuate that Trump was saying that because they're Black, they're animals, when the reality was the quote, from my understanding, that he was referring to all the journalists as animals, and some of them happen to be Black. If I go and if there's a group of journalists, there's a white guy, an Asian guy, a Mexican guy, and a Black guy all in a group, and I say you're a bunch of animals because they start yelling at me and writing articles saying I'm all these terrible things, am I not allowed to do that just because one of them's Black? I don't think that's fair. I think if you should be able to criticize everybody equally, right? You should be able to call someone, if someone's doing something terrible to you, you should be able to call them whatever name you'd like. I could understand if he used like a specific racial slur, or if he was just like, oh, that group of, Black journalists, they're animals, and the ones over there that are white aren't. Like, if he specified like that, okay, I could totally understand that being way out of line, but that's not what happened. He called them a group of journalists animals because they were writing all these terrible things and saying all these ridiculous things about him and questioning him in a way that was just out of line. And one of them being Black, it wasn't because I don't think that was because the one guy was Black, but of course, they go after him for every little thing, and they always do this where they'll cut clips out where Trump sounds just like unhinged and crazy, and then they'll try to gloss over what the journalists did or the way they questioned him, and they leave out the context of all the reasoning on why Trump is now frustrated because of all these things that led up to this interview that didn't go the way they should have went. And I could understand that. I mean, look how many rallies the man goes to. He's busy. Like, he's got to be places. So for them to be late and then also be like, oh, and the other person's not coming. Oh, and we're just going to go ahead and come right at you and attack you. Yeah, I mean, I'd be frustrated too. I think he handled it very well. I mean, he didn't call her any names, and he just expressed his frustration and said that she was being very rude and inappropriate. Yeah, I think that's fine. I don't see any issue with that at all. In fact, I think that shows backbone.
Is some more.
But John, be fair. She didn't even say hello. How are you?
I almost want to play the tape back because I bet she did, but I also don't care. I mean, from start to finish, the lie about why they started late, it apparently was not the equipment issue. We could get into it perhaps, but that is not why they started late.
Yeah.
If you go watch the full thing, like I went back before this, it was because of that. They literally come out and say we're having equipment issues. He's lying now, but okay.
Immediately saying it's a horrible, I've never been asked such a horrible, nasty question. You're an adult. What are you talking about? I don't care how nasty it is. How is that how you respond to it? And then the ABC, you're fake news, You should shut up. No one's ever been better for Black people. I love Black people. It's madness. It was sheer madness from floor to ceiling.
See, this is the thing, right? He's acting like you're not allowed to question the way that you're talked to. You're not allowed to tell someone they're being disrespectful. They're a journalist, so they can be as disrespectful and rude to you as they want, and you just have to take it because they're a journalist, and that's just how it is. They get to do whatever they want. No, that's no, buddy. If someone's being rude as hell and they're being disrespectful, you can call them on that. No matter who it is, you're allowed to call them on that. These people are ridiculous.
Massive lies. He demonstrated in the first response every reason that people were saying he shouldn't have been invited in the first place. He hates Black people and he hates journalists. So an organization of Black journalists seems like a difficult place for him to do.
Again, it's ironic because there's no evidence that he hates Black people in any shape or form at all. And this narrative of him being racist didn't pop up until he got into politics. Nobody thought he was racist before politics at all. At all. It's hilarious that this is what they still cling to this, because this is all they have. All they have is the name calling and attaching isms to the man, and they're really hoping that they can pin him to being racist for this situation. It's just silly, dude. It's so silly.
well. And so to continually attack and then to tell a massive auditorium of Black professionals, I don't care what you think, I'm the best that you've ever had. How the hell is that his place to say?
Yeah, well, again, if you look at the context of who he's running against now, Kamala Harris locked up tons of Black people in California for minor marijuana charges and then used them as basically slave labor to fight forest fires because that's allowed in California. They use prison population to fight forest fires. And she kept people locked up for long periods of time, a lot longer than they needed to be locked up or should have been locked up at all for minor drug charges. And it benefited her in that way. On top of the fact that she withheld evidence for somebody who was on death row, her office did, and that person could have been proved innocent, and her office wouldn't release the information. So that right there should prevent her from having any power in society in general. In fact, she should be put in jail for that. It's insane. But again, screw the context of who he's running against. He's just racist. We don't have any proof. We're just gonna say that because he was mean. He sounded mean. Yeah, okay, buddy.
Say, at least get one of your Black surrogates or something like that. Give them the order to go tell that lie for you or whatever. But for him to say that is madness. And I know we're gonna get to a lot of elements of this. You could take the
I'm sorry to pause this every 2 seconds, but yeah, he should send one of his Black surrogates to go, because I'm sure you wouldn't criticize him for that. I guarantee you, if Trump had sent somebody in his place that was Black, they would have said that guy's an Uncle Tom and that Trump's so racist that he didn't want to show up and he refused to go in person because he didn't care. Trump showed up to this event. He was the only one that did. Kamala Harris wasn't even willing to show up. She was going to Zoom call in. Okay, sure. Yeah. No, Trump's so racist. He was willing to go to the Black convention for journalists. You know, the one group of people that hates him, and I'm not talking about Black people, I'm talking about journalists. The journalist community or the media in general do not like Donald Trump, clearly. So for him to go to a Black media convention in front of a bunch of Black journalists, yeah, he's just super racist. He hates them all. Yeah, okay.
10 most ridiculous things coming out of this, get rid of them, and we'd have material for a half hour on this. This is one of the worst appearances he's ever had in his life.
Yeah, I think that he squandered an opportunity. Like if he actually was strategically minded, he would be aware and he would expect this kind of questioning to happen, to occur. Again, the event was specifically for the National Association of Black Journalists. He knows that there has been a lot of concern about his rhetoric and statements about people in the Black community. And so he should have been prepared for this. And he should have seen it as a strategic opportunity to kind of change his messaging. But he totally fumbled, and he fumbled again and again and again. The entirety of the interview was about 34 minutes. So we can't show you all of the times that he fumbled, but these were the elements of his statements that like really stood out to me. So let's get to immigration and what he refers to as Black jobs.
And a lot of the journalists in this room I know and I have great respect for, a lot of the journalists in this room are Black. I will tell you that coming from the border are millions and millions of people that happen to be taking Black jobs. You had the best.
What exactly is a Black job, sir?
A Black job is anybody that has a job. That's what it is. Anybody that has a job.
All right.
It's not fair for me to say that he could have responded that differently, but if in the moment you only have a split second to respond, so it's hard to think of these things. But if I was him, I would have tried to say something along the lines of, I actually would have just kicked it right back to her and said, well, what's a Black journalist? I mean, you're at a convention of Black journalists, right? And she's here going, well, what's a Black job? Okay, well, what's a Black journalist? It's the same answer. It's just a Black person that holds a position. Whether that's a job or a journalist doesn't matter. It's just the point that he's trying to make is the Black community that already lives here, that's been here in the United States, is suffering because you have immigrants illegally coming in. And because those immigrants are coming into these cities, these sanctuary cities, and taking jobs under the table that don't require them to pay taxes, they're taking jobs away from Black people in the Black community. And when they show up to these communities, that's his point. But because he used the word Black and he's specifying that, of course, they got to try to spin it in a way that makes him look racist. It's just ridiculous. These people will attack him no matter what. The response you're seeing from Ana Kasparian and the guy, her co-host, I don't even know who he is. I don't really care. It's the same response you're seeing all over the mainstream media and the leftist media. And they have to spin it this way. The reality is these people that think like this weren't going to vote for Trump anyways. I'm seeing a lot of people on the right actually like his response. I think his response was fine. I think if people are being disrespectful, you should call them on it. I think that immediately starting out hostile, I think he just kicked it right back to her. Okay, you want to be hostile? I'm going to be hostile. Now, I understand what she's saying is he could have been tepid and like tried to impress people on the left and come off strategic and political, but that's not Trump. That's people don't like Trump for being a fake politician, and I don't think that he would have won anyone over at this point. I think people who are going to vote for Trump are going to vote for Trump. People who are going to vote for the Democrats, whoever they put up, are going to vote for the Democrats. And I think the left just found something that they can spin in a way that they can make it viral, essentially. Like they cling to this because it is formatted in a way that they can clip it, make him look bad, and act like he's doing horribly. But I think this was fine. I think it was fine. I think the sheer fact that he was the only person that showed up that was supposed to show up out of the political ring is props to him. I mean, the guy showed up to the Black Convention for Journalists and no one else did. Biden dropped out. He didn't show up. Kamala didn't even make the time to show up. Yeah, that shows how much she cares about the Black community, right? So it's whatever. You know, at the end of the day, all he needs to do is go debate Kamala Harris when it comes, if she gets once she gets nominated, of course, let me specify that. And then he just needs to give her the Tulsi Gabbard treatment. All he has to do is give the same exact speech that Tulsi Gabbard gave at the Democratic primaries in 2020, and Kamala Harris will be toast. Should be absolutely toast. Should be done. Well, anyways, folks, that's all I had for you today, or I shouldn't say today, for this video. We're going to go ahead and end it here. If you guys like this comment, please like and subscribe down below. Or if you didn't like it, tear me apart in the comments. Either way, I just appreciate the engagement. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Enjoy your day.